Faith-based story. Forgiveness and redemption. A story of second chances. The sun was setting over the city as Justin sat on his balcony, watching the colors of the sky change from blue to orange to pink. His mind was racing. It had been a year since he'd made a mistake that had caused him to lose everything he once held dear. He couldn't help but think about the past and how he wished he could go back and change things. But he knew that wasn't possible. He had to find a way to move forward. Justin was a successful businessman who had it all: family, money, power, and respect. But then everything went downhill when he was caught embezzling money from his company. He was fired, his reputation was ruined, and he lost his family's trust. He hit rock bottom and turned to drugs and alcohol to numb the pain. He became a shell of his former self, living in a rundown apartment with nothing to look forward to. But despite all his mistakes, Justin never lost his faith. He still believed in God and knew that he had to seek forgiveness in order to find redemption. He started going to church regularly and joined a small group where he made new friends who accepted him for who he was. One of his friends, a man named David, had a similar story. He had been a drug addict for years before he found God and turned his life around. David had an air of calmness and peace that Justin admired. He knew that he wanted that kind of peace in his own life. One day, after months of attending church and seeking God's forgiveness, Justin called his ex-wife, Sarah. He begged her to meet him and not hang up on him the moment she heard his voice. Sarah reluctantly agreed and they met in a coffee shop. They talked for hours, and Justin poured out his heart, asking for her forgiveness and telling her how he wished he could take everything back. Sarah listened intently but didn't say much. She just stared at him with a mixture of pain and regret. She didn't know if she could forgive him. He had hurt her so much. Justin pulled out a small booklet from his pocket and gave it to Sarah. "I wrote this for you," he said. "It's an apology letter, and it's also my testimony. It explains everything that happened and how I found God. Please read it and let me know if you can forgive me." Sarah took the booklet and left the coffee shop without saying another word. Justin felt defeated, but at least he had tried. He knew that he couldn't force Sarah to forgive him. It was all up to her. The next day, Justin received a call from Sarah. Her voice was shaking as she spoke. "Justin," she said, "I read your letter, and I forgive you. I never thought I could say those words, but I have to. I can see that you've changed, and I'm willing to give you a second chance. But you must never betray my trust again." Justin felt like a huge weight had been lifted off his shoulders. He knew that he had a lot of work to do to gain Sarah's trust, but he was willing to do anything to make it up to her. For the next few months, Justin worked hard to rebuild his relationships with his family, his friends, and his former colleagues. He also started mentoring young men who were struggling with addiction and helped them find their way back to God. Justin realized that he had a purpose in life, and it wasn't about the money or the power. It was about helping others and spreading God's love. One day, Justin was sitting in church when the pastor read Psalm 103:12, "As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us." Justin felt a huge wave of gratitude wash over him. He knew that he had been forgiven and that God had given him a second chance. He vowed to never forget that feeling and to always live his life according to God's will. As he walked out of the church, he saw Sarah waiting for him. She smiled and hugged him, and Justin knew that he had been truly redeemed. He had a second chance at life, and he was going to make the most of it.